I'm Dia Direct, and I'm so glad you're here today because you know what? Destiny is waiting on you. However, if you're anything like I've been in the past, you may have allowed life and circumstances to distract you from walking fully in all that you've been destined to really be. But I've got some good news for you. It's not too late. Yeah, now you may have gotten distracted, but you do not have to be denied. See, distractions, they're sneaky little buzzards. And it's not always a major catastrophe that throws you off your game. See, these distractions can be small yet significant missteps that build up over time and get you off course. Next thing you know, it's not 2 months, not even 2 years. It's 10 years later and you're still in the same place, emotionally, physically, financially, professionally, relationally. Can you relate to that? Any of those? I'm going to get spiritual on you for a second. Have you ever heard the scripture or a saying that talks about how the enemy of your soul, also known as the thief, comes to kill, steal, and destroy? Now, the revelation I got about that is that he doesn't care if we're, okay or good. Things are cool. You know what I'm saying? His goal is to keep us from becoming great. If he can steal the greatness from you, excellence, that next levelness, that anointing, that power from you, where we're fully walking and effectively in God's purpose for our lives, then he can still see it as a win because you've fallen short. You've been compromised. Have you ever been compromised? Because I have. And that's why he uses what I call weapons of distraction to throw you off your game. Like social media, fear, laziness, procrastination, loneliness. Can't relate yet? Try this. Insecurity, low self-esteem, impatience, misinformation, frustration, disappointments, anger. I'm not talking about small disappointments and anger. I'm talking about the kind that keep you stuck, keep you from moving forward, wake you up at night and go with you to bed. The kind that overwhelm your life and keeps you from good energy and positivity and creativity. That kind of thing. Well, let's try this one. Unhealthy relationships with ourselves and others. I'm talking about that low self-esteem that causes you to feel bad about yourself or to accept less than what you deserve. See, it's not enough to just delay our progress. The whole point is to throw us off course, if not to completely abort the ultimate mission at hand. But today I want to share one of my testimonies as a living example of returning back to the best of you. In this case, my weapons of distraction were fear of failure, fear of loneliness, fear of experiencing pain. And not only did they get me off course, but almost cost me everything. Because fears can be torturous, haunting the mind, which is why our minds need to be protected and guarded from influences that are harmful. And once you're done listening to this episode, it is my hope and expectation that you will no longer allow distractions to destroy your destiny, but instead you will run your race, keeping your eyes on the prize, living your best life, and learning your lessons along the way. Listen up and let's go. Before doing this podcast, I was the senior producer for the Tom Jordan Morning Show. I'm a former Miss Black USA. I've been married before, and I've had a lot of highlights in my life. I've also had a lot of lowlights, things that took me down a road that I didn't like. Part of that is what I will share in terms of my testimony. Now, here I am. Most days, like most people on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, you see people dressed up, their makeup, they always show you what's going right. But there's another side to everybody's story, including mine. For me, I've been married and divorced more than once, And I remember when I graduated from Howard, and the dream was to move to LA, to go to Hollywood and become, an actress like some of my counterparts, like people like Taraji Henson and Marlon Wayans and so on and so forth. But I also had a boyfriend, and we had gotten engaged. And so the short of this story is that I didn't have the courage to choose myself. When I went down the aisle that first time, I went down with tears in my eyes because I didn't want other people to be disappointed who had already made their reservations for the wedding. And by the time I realized, after counseling, after all the red flags, it became very clear to me that this was not the right move. But guess what? Distraction, point number 1. Fear of being alone and disappointing others. I was afraid to disappoint everybody else. And so after about a year of being married, things got really, really bad, to the point where I did something one day that you could have never, ever, ever told me that I would do. But I've learned never say never, and be very careful about judging other people, because you don't know what you would or would not do until you're there. On this particular day, I took pills. I took enough pills to make me sick, but I put the other ones back because I realized I really didn't want to die as much as I was looking for my ex to see me, to understand that things that he was doing and what was happening in our relationship or not happening was very hurtful to me. And to be honest with you, I was disappointed in myself, and I was expecting him to make me happy, to make my life work. That didn't happen. After calling him, very dramatic by the way, and basically dozing off, going to the hospital, getting my stomach pumped, coming home and seeing how worried and upset he was, I was like, great, he gets it, he understands now. Well, his mother told him, well, try to kill herself, she might try to kill you next. She said that. After doing all of that to get his attention so that he could see that I was in pain, he left me the next day because his mama told him to. So guess who felt like boo-boo the fool? Me. I did. Because it was very disheartening to not only do something that I judged before, that I would never do, then to get left for it, and now here I am all alone having to deal with myself. So what was the big lesson from that situation? The big lesson for me is that it's never anybody else's responsibility to make your life work. You are always responsible for your own truth, and you have to be true to yourself. So he was fulfilling his dreams. Part of me resented that because I didn't have the courage to go after mine. That is one of my testimonies. Now, if you live long enough, you'll have a lot of testimonies, because even after that, I went on to get up, go to work, find new passions and opportunities, and to the point where I became the producer for the Tom Joyner Morning Show. But the first lesson here is that, unfortunately, what we often do is, after life happens, we just keep going, and we don't always get the help that we need. Sometimes you can be like I was, which is we run from pain, we run from what happened, we run from what we're really going through, what we're feeling emotionally, physically, pains from our past, pains from our present. And so what we do is we just keep going. Sometimes just because we have to, but still, don't often stay still, quiet, and present enough to realize what's happening to us, to understand our why. And so what we continue to do is run, right? Distraction number 2. Impatience and fear of pain. From that situation and beyond, I've had a history of running. I've been running from myself, my pain. I've been running from the call that God has on my life. I've been not trusting the process. I've been doing things the way that I want to do them. I want that cheat sheet. I don't necessarily want to go through the pain, whether it was my first marriage or, Having seen my mother be abused to a number of different areas in my life that I can point to, I can recall just feeling like I don't want to deal with no more pain. I was actually a youth leader at my church. And I remember one time having prayer with a prayer partner who said to me, you know what, Dia? You are really powerful in the spirit. And the enemy is going to attack you because that's how anointed you are. Child, baby. Why did he tell me that? That was the wrong thing to say to me because my whole point was I don't need any more new testimonies, okay? I've been through enough pain as it is. And literally, y'all, I stopped praying the way that I used to pray. I stopped having all the fervor that I used to have because I didn't want to be attacked. I didn't want to deal with the pain. Which brings me to, I am a certified life coach. I'm certified in social and emotional intelligence. My superpower, by the way, you can have more than one, but one of my superpowers is leveraging all of my personal and professional experiences and literally using it to take me to the next level, including the pain. I literally believe that we should make our pain pay us back. Why do I say that? Your pain should pay you back because just like when you go to work, you worked for it. It cost you something. It took time. It wasn't easy. If you go through something just like at work or anything else or your business, you want a return on your money. You want a return on your effort. You want it to mean something, which is what we all want. We all want our life to mean something. But the process of running also requires pain in order to get to the finish line. What do I mean? Let me tell you. So I looked at the word run. I've been running from maybe even being as super powerful as I could be because I didn't want to go through what it took to get there. So oftentimes we want to skip steps. We just want to do what we want to do and we don't necessarily want to do what we need to do. Here's what I found in terms of the definition of run. Moving at a speed faster than a walk. Never having both or all feet on the ground at the same time. And it makes me think about that Diana Ross song. Remember, do you know where you're going to? Do you like the things that life is showing you? Where are you going to? I spent a lot of time running, even after glimpses of triumph or pain. I just knew that I wanted everything to hurry up and happen. And I didn't necessarily always appreciate the lessons that I had along the way, like, by the way, the lesson of what happened in my first marriage. That lesson of realizing that as much as he was wrong for some things that he did, like anybody else, he's human. He's trying to figure out his own life. He's trying to figure out what works for him. And every individual is responsible for their own happiness so that when you show up in a relationship, you know what you want or don't want, and therefore you don't settle. So that experience actually led to my first book, which is called Touch Yourself, 30 Ways to Boldly Live, Love, and Let Go. Well, I wouldn't have known had I not gone through that experience. So in that situation, over time, my pain paid me back because I was able to write a book about being so in touch with who you are, what you like, what you don't like, your strengths, your weaknesses, that really you are teaching other people about you and not the other way around. But had I not gone through that very painful, very embarrassing, very humbling experience, I would not have been able to write that book for thousands of women to read, consume, be healed. And the testimonies that I've gotten from women who have read that book, it made me feel like, okay, my life did matter. And what I went through was worthwhile. That is one of my testimonies.
We'll be back with more Superpower Her with your host, Dia Direct.
Have you ever been in a relationship, personally or professionally, that has failed? And it made you feel lost and discouraged? Well, What if I told you that you can literally leverage every single painful situation and make your pain pay you back? After all, it cost you something. Just like with a bank account, you want to get some interest off of everything that you've been through. All the tears, all the time, all the effort. Make it pay you back. Use it. Leverage it. Check out my Amazon #1 bestseller, Failure is Fuel, and experience how my testimony can fuel your life to the next level.
We're back where Superfly women testify. It's the Super Power Her podcast with your host, Dia Direct.
Distraction, point number 3, discouragement.
So I looked up this word race, and by definition, it says that a race is both contest and conflict. You're racing to get to where you're going. And oftentimes on this journey of racing to the top or to the next level, right? Because we all trying to level up. If it's not going as planned, we often see it as discouragement. We often see it like, well, maybe I should go in a different direction because we hit a roadblock or because there was some conflict. But what if racing, as defined, is supposed to be that way? Think about it. You're literally pushing yourself, if you've ever run track, you're pushing yourself beyond your limits, working to get your time better. There's conflict in training your body to do things that it hasn't done before, to run faster, prepare different, to work out differently. You have to do these things that are uncomfortable and they hurt. It's challenging. And I thought that was interesting because when I look at the different areas of my own life and where I've messed up, made mistakes, taken a step back, it's usually because there's a thread of the same thing, which is fear or me trying to avoid pain. But in reality, in order to win any race, you have to be willing to go through the process, which can often be painful, in order to get to the finish line. So if you find yourself in a situation where you're like, oh, this doesn't feel good, I'm going to go in a different direction. Well, hold on. Remember, sometimes pain is also a signal. Let me tell you what I mean. So then I said, okay, I see something going on here. Okay, God, what are you trying to show me? So I looked up the word pain. Pain is often not just to make you feel bad, but as defined, pain is also used to alert you. It actually comes from your brain, right? Your brain tells a certain part of your body that something is wrong. And so pain is your body's way of alerting you to danger and letting you know what's happening in your body. So sometimes when there's conflict, sometimes when things are uncomfortable, it's a sign to let you know that something is wrong. Even though we push through the pain, like I did after that suicide attempt in many other situations, when you get that alert, the point is not just to push through it. At that point, you need to understand what is happening. Why is it happening? And what is it that you're supposed to learn? So you see, even though this podcast is about women of power and super powerful women and some celebrities talking about their testimony and sharing their superpowers, the thing about any testimony, regardless of where you are in life, is you can't have a testimony, unless you have what? A test. Child, a test, baby. So a test means you have to actually be tried. You have to actually see if you measure up, which may not be easy. It doesn't make it bad. It just makes it a part of the process. And in order to go from one grade to the next, in order to go from one level to the next, you have to pass the test. So everybody wants a testimony, but nobody wants the test. It's not enough to just be tested. You have to pass the test. That's why we have to be careful about that judgment thing, because you look at other people and you're like, I don't know why she did that, or I would never do that or the other. But have you been in her shoes? Do you really know what you would or would not do? Because I promise you, if I go from 1 year to being Miss Black USA and graduated from Howard University and traveling the world to taking pills, you could not have told me when I was on cloud 9 that I would have done that a year later. But I did. And I would have, on the other side, judged somebody else's process without knowing their full story. So pain is not always there to hurt you or even to stop you, but it might be there to interrupt you so that you can take stock about what's happening in my life right now. Which brings me to this podcast. After my 10 years was over at the Tom Jordan Morning Show, I was really ready to do my thing, right? Things that I had been dreaming about, including having a moment like this, talking to you, right? And I'm known by a lot of people for doing something called the Man Whisperer, where I talk to a panel of men, but I learned to listen, to really get the man's perspective, because I had talked to my girlfriends for years already about what we like, and we were still making the same mistakes. So I decided, go to the source, see what men have to say. Let me tell you something, I didn't like what they had to say, but I learned a lot in the process. So most people know me as being the Man Whisperer, because I was then able to take what I learned, reinterpret it, and share it with women, which actually led me to my third book, which is called Soft is the New Power, Embracing Your Feminine Edge to Win in Love and Life. So that process taught me something too. I'll talk to you about that another time. But the point is, when I came on this journey of doing the podcast and everything, it was like, I'm going to go do the Man Whisperer thing. But God interrupted my plans, and I didn't like it. And it didn't feel good because I wanted to do what I wanted to do, as usual, ego, will, right? That's what we want to do, what we want to do. Sometimes God will allow you to feel pain, to get your attention, to interrupt you from running so fast on how you think it has to be, because we judge the process. Even though what I thought I should be doing was intriguing to me, it wasn't flowing. Even though it was intriguing to so many people, and people are like, when are you going to do another Man Whisperer? It wasn't flowing. That was painful for me. I didn't like it. And it got to the point where I had to really get on my face, cry, and pray, and really seek the Lord. And one of the things that came to me was the name of this podcast, the Superpower Podcast. Some of the most amazing things have happened since I started this podcast, but it interrupted my flow. It was not on my agenda. This was not the podcast that I wanted to be doing. And I'm pretty sure, in fact, I know the Man Whisperer is coming back, but I needed to do this first. So as a result of tapping into my own superpower and also helping other women who are trying to reignite their lives, starting over, figure out not just who was I before, but who am I now, and then figure out how to tap into their superpower. So I do that as a life coach. I'm also tapping into other people's stories within the podcast.
Distraction point number 4. Stuck in the past and old mindsets.
Good news is sometimes the pain is not there just to hurt you. It's there to teach you something. And the revelation that I got is what I want to share with you today. During this time of prayer about what is next for me, because I realized that I was very much defined by what I did before. And like somebody who's listening right now, you're trying to figure out, who am I now? What am I supposed to be doing now? And I realized that I had been telling that same testimony that I told you about from back in the day, a long time. And sometimes you need a refresh. Sometimes in order to get to the next level of your journey for what you have to do, it has to be fresh for you. It has to be real for you. It has to be a story that wasn't 20 years ago, but okay, what story can you share now about your own journey that somebody else can relate to? And mine was trying to redefine and refine my new level, my new life, who I am now after what I used to be and what I used to do and what those titles were. And that is the revelation I got in my prayer, which was this season of pain is not to hurt you. It's to redirect you. It's not a matter of you having to change your whole life. Sometimes it's just a pivot. There's some small shifts that we have to make. And I want you to hear this. I don't know if you're familiar with the story of the elephant with the rope around its leg. In this story, it's about baby elephants who have a rope tied around their leg. And as they get larger, the same rope is still there. Clearly, they're big enough to just leave. So this man was walking by the elephants one day and said, why is this huge elephant just standing there with this little old rope tied around its leg? The trainer said, because when they're young, when they're babies, we put this rope around them and then they can't move. But they still believe, even though elephants are huge, they believe they can't move. Breaking free, which is the second part of this conversation, is not necessarily just running and breaking free as much as it is freeing your mind. Because like these elephants, a lot of times in our mind, we're not free. We don't know that everything that we've been through, everything that has caused us pain, is actually being used for our good. It's actually leading you to your purpose. It's actually going to pay you back. But until and unless you believe that, because you're shackled in your mind, because you're shackled by fear, shame, disappointment, you will never allow what you went through, that whole journey, all that stuff, it will never pay you back, because in your mind, you don't believe that it was worth anything or that you're worth anything. And I'm here to tell you today that literally my pain and the process is what has allowed me to tap into my superpower, which is the thing that you do that may be ordinary to other people and get ordinary results. But it's the thing that you do, have, or possess that gets you extraordinary results. And because I'm tapped into what has happened as a result of what I've gone through, oftentimes, not just triumph, but also pain, I'm able to meet women where they are. I'm able to help women not just go through it, but to leverage it, use it, get the most out of it. And somebody needs to know today that if you find yourself in that gray area, it's not here to hurt you. That pain is not here to do anything except to get your attention so that you can figure out what the pivot is. And so that's why there's a break, which is the first part of the breakthrough. You have to take a break sometimes. Sometimes you have to gather yourself. And a break is an interruption. It's like, you had a great run in season 1. And now in this new season, I'm going to give you a break so that you can redefine what's next and also refine. See, sometimes you can run so much you run out of breath and you're no good to yourself or anybody else, and you need a break. You don't like it. You don't like how it feels because you're used to going, but you also need it to refine, to shift, to make some adjustments so that you're prepared and you have the energy that you need to actually go to that next level. So the good news is we've experienced pain, and then there's the break. That is really your time, not only for the breakthrough and to be redirected, but it's also so that you can be free, which is really winning. Because at the end of any race, we want to win, right? And so what is freedom? It's being released from captivity. It's being unblocked. And that elephant needed to be free in the mind. You may need to be free in your mind. and be unblocked. And sometimes the break was actually what you need to break free from old mindsets, so that old things are passed away, and behold, all things are become new. And I want to leave you with this.
Remember, don't let distractions destroy your destiny.
Win your own race, not how Tanya, Monica, Keisha, Susie, Janice did it. Everybody has a different race. And the process that you have can't be cheated, or you won't get what you need, which means you'll have to go right back to the starting line, or at least it'll feel that way. And so if you find yourself jealous or comparing yourself to somebody else because you've been in the game longer, you knew more, they're this way and you don't like it, and you're feeling some kind of way about their success, well, in any race, you have to train for it. So if you've taken too many breaks, or if you have not gone through the process and been tested, not only do you not have the testimony that you need, but you also don't have the wherewithal. You don't have the strength. You can't run a marathon because you haven't prepared for it. Meanwhile, you're judging this other person wanting to be where they are, but you don't know the process that they've gone through. My friend, my message to you today: break free from the mindset that says, I don't like this process. I don't want to do that. But it's the pain of the process that's actually preparing you to be free. That's preparing you to walk in your superpower. You're right there. You're not as far as you think. But don't cheat yourself. And don't cheat the process. Okay? I'm back, y'all. Listen, things that God told me to do 20 years ago, I'm just now getting back to. But sometimes the biggest battle is yourself. Your run in your race is not against your opponent over here. Like me, we're racing against our own thoughts, our own beliefs, our own limitations, our own lies, our own fears. Be afraid. Do it anyway. Feel the pain, and don't skip over the pain. Let the pain tell you what it's trying to alert you about. Listen to it, and then leverage it. I'm your girl, Dia Direct. This has been a special Superpower podcast where you learned about my superpower and my testimony.
Follow me on Instagram at DEYA Direct. Follow this podcast at SuperPowHer. That's SuperPowHer. And for more information, go to my website at deyadirect.net. I certainly hope this podcast has spoke to your life. I hope that you have found encouragement to move forward, to not give up on yourself. Please share it with somebody who you know needs it. And write a comment on Apple Podcasts. And it's available for you if you need to listen to it over and over again, because podcasts are the gifts that keep on giving. And don't forget, today is the day. Right now in this moment, there's a woman who needs help. There's a woman who's discouraged. There's a woman who needs to go to therapy. It might be you. Don't let money be the obstacle that keeps you from getting what you need. Donate in your name to the Super Self-Care Project at superselfcare.org. Or if you're the one who needs the help and support, just send us an email and we'll do everything we can to get you set up with a therapist who can meet you right where you are. God bless you.